listening to The Trade Gods.
What's going on, Player Profiler Nation? Welcome to the latest installment of Trade Gods. I am your host, Matty Kiwoom, and of course, I am joined by my fellow Trade God brethren, the morning man himself, Jaxon Allwine. What's going on, Jay?
Nothing too much, you know how I feel about my Thursday nights, man. I am excited. I am ready to break down some trades tonight. It's going to be great. We've got a great episode lined up, and I'm in. Let's do it.
Got a great episode indeed. You know, we got even more Ken Walker the third trades to break down. This might be the most popular man on the trade market today. Seems like every single week we're talking about Ken Walker. We got some more to break down. And of course, we got some buys and some sells. And we are joined by a very special guest. Jay, let the people listening know who's tuning in with us tonight.
Yeah, man, we have our friend, our guy, the guy who co-hosts the Writers Roundtable on Wednesday nights with Seth and writes tons of articles. We're collabing with him for the Win Your Leagues or whatever with the Player Profiler staff. You know, we're picking these breakout guys, players.
Yep.
You know, we've got so many things going on right now at Player Profiler right now. And a big man, a part of this is, of course, Matt Babich, who's joining us right now.
We are so excited to have him, so let's get right into it. Matt, what is going on, my friend? How's it going? Thank you for joining the Trade Gods. We have to do a little arranging as we typically do when it comes to our overlays, but here we are. What's going on, Matt?
Man, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Jason. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was awesome. I'm blushing. It's hard to see in the camera. For those who let the podcast listeners know that I am blushing, I'm flattered. Yeah, it's happy. It's great to be outside of the roundtable. You know, we were on Mock Draft Live on Monday and here on Thursday, so we're making the rounds across the stream this week. So excited to talk some trades.
Well, why don't we dive right on into the very first trade tonight? It is a bit of a doozy. It's a fun one. We got some bangers here tonight, so let's dive right on into the first trade of the night. It is part of a 10-team PPR Superflex, 2 tight ends. You start 2 tight ends, which is very pivotal to this trade. Start 13. Some pretty deep starting rosters. Matt, let's look at this deal here. Mark Andrews, Ken Walker III in a 24 third for George Kittle, Sky Moore, Travis Etienne, and Chigo. How do you see this trade breaking down? What do you like here?
Yeah, so a big part of these is obviously team structure, and so I'm assuming who got the team who received the top is a win now team. And if we're rocking 10 teams, you know, I think the trick to this trade, right, is 2 tight ends, and you can get swayed easily by seeing Kittle and Okonkwo, but the win now value they can get out of Ken Walker and Mark Andrews right now is greater than all of these pieces to me. So Andrews over Kittle by a decent margin this season, and then Ken Walker over Etienne this season and next season. So those are 2 similar assets, but I think Ken Walker's valued higher. And then, you know, it comes down to you can get, you know, 2024 third. It's close. But I'm leaning the Andrews and Walker side because I'm trying to win a championship now. There's a lot of fragility with Kittle. There's some uncertainty with, you know, the team dynamic and what this team's going to look like, who's going to be the quarterback. Sky Moore just unfortunately is in a clustered situation where he hasn't really fired, so I can't weigh him very highly. And so if I'm a win now team, I'm absolutely smashing the top half of this trade. If I'm trying to rebuild, I can consider the bottom, but if I'm moving off of Andrews and Walker in a 2 tight end league in a rebuild, I'm not trading for Kittle. So that's kind of my hang up with the bottom part. So I'm taking the top half.
Does the Okonkwo side kind of soften that blow for you? Because I agree with you.
Sure.
Kittle has that volatility. Even when he's healthy, my man is 5 points, 28 points. Like, he's super volatile in how he kind of puts how he scores week to week. So does that Okonkwo addition make it closer for you, or is Okonkwo just kind of the cherry on top here?
It does. It makes it closer, 100%. There's a lot of appeal to Chigo Okonkwo. He's one of the clubhouse leaders for this season's breakout tight end. That being said, there's no guarantee that this Titans passing offense takes any sort of leap forward year over year. And Chigo was a player that flashed through efficiency. And so you're betting on that to stay consistent if he does get some sort of increased target share. And so while I do love the upside of Chigo and I'm majorly taking bets on him,
Right.
I think I guess it all depends on your tolerance for risk. But
and I think I think this is a good lesson to learn for everyone watching and tuning in is that you can be a fan of what Chigo can present your fantasy team without necessarily vying for him in your trade, in how you make a trade. Because like I said, Andrews and Ken Walker is a more certain value, where Okonkwo we're projecting because like you said, he's very efficient, but can efficiency translate with increased volume? That's what we're going to learn in 2023. Jason, what do you think about this trade?
I think it's a fun one. I'll start with that.
No one loves a fun trade like Jason. Nobody loves a fun trade like Jason.
And I might have to put my old man pants back on and be like, why
Don't
can't
become Mr. Allwine. Jay, Matt, I don't know if you tuned in a couple weeks ago when he became Get Off My Lawn, Mr.
Get Off
Allwine.
My Lawn. Yep. I watched it back.
Mr.
I went back.
All right.
Jay's coming out.
Is it Mr. Allwine or Jay? What are we doing here?
I just might have to put it back on because I just don't understand why this trade can't just be George Kittle and Chigo for Mark Andrews. And then like Travis Etienne and Sky Moore for Kenneth Walker. Like those just feel like two trades that should happen separately. You mix it together and then based on how I just said it, right now, this 3rd round pick is being thrown into it. So I do think that kind of sets it over a top, but really what is a 3rd round pick besides an extra dart throw? I think with 2 tight ends, start 13, I'm going to lean towards the asset side overall. I like the upside that we're probably going to see with Okonkwo. I know the Titans don't pass a lot, but one of the primary targets in a primarily play action heavy offense is usually the tight end, especially an athletic tight end like Chigo Okonkwo. Mm-hmm. So I'm betting on him a lot next season and going forward. Sky Moore, everything coming out of camp right now is that he's starting to even become Patrick Mahomes' favorite target right now in the offseason. That could end up being
Travis
huge.
Kelce still plays there.
Right. Okay. Besides Kelce, sorry. Number 1 receiver, right? So the number 2 still on the team that's passing the ball 650 times a year. Even the number 4 is valuable. But a guy now going into his 2nd year with that kind of skill set, I mean, people were taking him in the 1st round of rookie drafts last year. So I think I like all those assets. Travis Etienne is very close to Kenneth Walker in that they're both highly efficient running backs or supposed to be highly efficient running backs in Travis Etienne's case. And then it's just, kind of the difference between Kittle and Andrews. But if we're just looking this season in particular, you're probably going to get similar enough production by the end of the year with Kittle, especially if things are progressing the way that they seem to be with Brock Purdy. I think he'll end up being fine. And getting 2 startable tight ends is pretty good, especially 2 probably top 10 tight ends next year for Mark Andrews. So I think I'll side with the asset side overall, but I mean, it's definitely incredibly close and you can never complain about getting the 2 best assets in Mark Andrews and Kenneth Walker.
Shout out to Disco Stu in the chat. He's asking a question though, Jay. Mandrews, is he the number 1 tight end in Dynasty?
Absolutely.
I would almost still say it's Kelce.
There's a 4-year difference.
Hear me disagree with else. Yeah, but I agree that the difference of age is enough in Dynasty. So but I think the real question is Andrews versus Pitts is the true question for Dynasty long term. Is it Pitts or is it Andrews, guys?
It's Mandrews. We're not seeing enough volume in the Atlanta Falcons pass offense, nor is he ever probably going to be the main target getter on this offense. There's an outside chance that Bijan Robinson gets more targets than Kyle Pitts next year. An outside chance, but it's there.
It's
Quote that one. Yeah. Put that on socials.
Yeah, that's going to be clip it. Yeah, I understand what both you guys are picking up what both you guys are putting down, but I'm going to side with Matt here. Andrews, Ken Walker, those are two bona fide assets. The 10-team start 13 kind of nullifies itself. It's deep enough where the 10-team isn't super, super shallow, but I still want those absolute studs here. So either way, very, very fair trade. But before we get into trade number 2, let's hear from the Podfather as he talks about rival fantasy.
Oh, baseball season's heating up. It's all about baseball right now. Baseball. Yeah, baseball is the most exploitable of the sports, especially on Rival Fantasy, rivalfantasy.com. Go there now. They have the fantasy book where you can take over under a certain number of fantasy points, and they have challenges where you can take player X or player Y. I get great pleasure out of fading Mike Trout into oblivion. And then don't forget about fantasy bingo, where you can say, okay, I think Acuna's going to steal a base today. I think that Freddie Freeman's going to have 2 hits based on the matchup. The lefty-righty and the pitcher quality matchups that you could exploit are unlike any other sport. Go to rivalfantasy.com. Use the promo code PLAYER. They refund any losses up to $50, and they are a great supporter of Player Profiler.
Absolutely. Play Rival Fantasy today. Here we are. Trade number 2, boys. This is a 12-team half-point PPR Superflex Star 11. Team A is receiving Cooper Kupp. Team B is receiving Michael Pittman Jr., a 2025 first rounder, not a 24, but a 25, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Jay, how do you see the show? Oh, excuse me. Mr. Allwine, how do you see this trade playing out?
Hey, I mean, this is a clean trade, right? We're sending some wide receivers for one. We're not throwing in a random stud tight end to also get acquired in this trade. Like, this is a trade for Cooper Kupp. So, Mr. Jason is not here right now. This is a fair trade to break down. If I'm trading Cooper Kupp and not contending, this is exactly the type of package that I'm looking to get. Except I probably would rather have a 24 first over the 25 first. And I think you probably could have gotten it given the question marks around Michael Pittman and the unfair fading of Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's a guy that I think is going way too low in drafts right now. And honestly isn't commanding a high enough trade value just based on a projected role for him as the wide receiver 2 on an offense that we're all expecting to take a step forward with Deshaun Watson, hopefully bouncing back. So getting 2 young wide receivers and a future first is a fantastic haul. I wish it was a 2024 first, but I think that this is definitely fair enough. And given that I'm assuming the team getting Kupp is competing and the team that is trading away Kupp is no longer anymore, this is, I honestly can't even really pick a side, but I'll pick the Kupp side because it's a 25 first.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Matt, so let me present this trade to you in a different way. Let's say you roster Cooper Kupp, and this is the offer in front of you in a 12-team half-point PPR Start 11 league. Are you hitting the accept button? And then feel free to talk about the trade as you will.
If I have Cooper Kupp and I am a contender, as it is outlined on the show sheet, I'm not hitting accept because Matty, you said, I can't remember if it was on the game plan or this show or a different show, but you said you were talking about the Rams, right? And if you sell your soul for the championship and you win
it's worth it.
It's worth it. And if you pass up this offer to keep Cooper Kupp on a potential wide receiver 3 season and win your league this year, it's worth it. You can figure it out from there. So if I have Kupp and I'm a contender, I'm selling, or I'm staying. If I have Kupp and I need to rebuild, I still don't know if I'm there with this offer because unlike Jason, I am completely out on Donovan Peoples-Jones. This is Cooper Kupp for Michael Pittman and a first to me. Okay. And then in that situation, I 100% agree with Jason where I have to have a 2024 first to start talking about this. I get the appeal for Donovan Peoples-Jones. He wasn't winning routes last season. He was almost 3rd on the team in target share behind David Njoku, and he on a 20% target share and a top 20 target quality rating and 80% catchable target rate. He had less than 10 fantasy points per game, 47th in the league. Now, he had an extraordinarily low touchdown rate, so only 3 touchdowns all season. So with the offense taking the step that we think it will, we expect that to increase a little bit. But with the entrance of Elijah Moore And even the drafting of, correct me if I'm wrong, Cedric Tillman.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
You grabbed
There's just not a lot of guarantee that Seth freaking popping up. In the
Seth's
chat.
on the Brady's popping up in the chase, popping up in your
There's
brain.
no guarantee that Seth Dewald is not the Cleveland Browns wide receiver 3. It could be anybody this season. Who knows who it's gonna be? So I'm not quite there if I need to sell Cooper Kupp if I'm trying to rebuild, but I don't. That just all depends on your prerogative, your view of Donovan Peoples-Jones.
I love Michael Pittman. Even with bad quarterback play, he was first last year in total route wins, third in route win rate with an over 54% win rate, and he was also ninth in top 10 in terms of win rate versus man coverage. So he can win. But if I'm not necessarily contending, I'm still not selling Cooper Kupp right here for this return because in my opinion, the secondary assets both fall short. And what I mean by that is a 25 first. Let's talk about the 25 first a year from now, guys. To think of that as your, an anchoring asset when you're trading a guy like Cooper Kupp away. It's just not enough to get me excited. And I'm with you, Matt, on Donovan Peoples-Jones. Maybe in a best ball format, this inflates his value a tad, but not enough for me to get excited. If this was a 24 first in Michael Pittman, you're getting me interested. If this is Elijah Moore instead of Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'm getting interested. So where this owner fell short, in my opinion, was the secondary assets. But Pittman is the type of player that I'm targeting if I have that win now asset. Your Cooper Kupps, your Tyreek Hills, Stephon Diggs, and you're not thinking you're a competitor now. Michael Pittman Jr. is someone I definitely want to make my primary asset that I'm going after, but both of these secondary assets fall a tad short for me. So if this was proposed to me and I rostered Kupp, I'm going to hold on to Kupp here. So I think the person who traded Kupp could have got a little bit more. Let's move on to the third trade. This is another 12-team half-point PPR. Superflex tight end premium with a very fun little nugget here, boys. A 0.2 points per carry. So how does this play into this running back trade? Start 11, David Montgomery in a 24 second for Dameon Pierce in a 24 fourth. Matt, which side of this trade do you want?
Well, the 0.2 points per carry means that for every carry that Dameon Pierce out carries David Montgomery in, because let's be, if Seth, I know he's in the chat. If you want to do another bet on carries between David Montgomery and Dameon Pierce, I'm right here, because anyone who thinks Montgomery is out carrying Pierce is delusional. So you're getting double the normal gap just from carries, and it's almost guaranteed, not guaranteed, but almost guaranteed that Dameon Pierce gets a higher percentage of targets in that offense, with Jahmyr Gibbs being the effective pass catcher that he is. The only thing with this trade that confuses me, first of all, I'm on the Dameon Pierce and fourth side if I'm a win now, and I'm on the David Montgomery in 2024 second if I'm struggling. Although, two things if you're making this trade from the sending Pierce side. I don't know if now's the time to sell. He's pretty undervalued right now, and he's the touch leader in that backfield. There's not a lot of talent for catching targets. So we could have an increase from his number 6 ranked running backs opportunity share in this offense. No matter what you think of this offense, it can't get much worse than it was last year. So Pierce is in a really appetizing situation for 2023. So if you're looking to sell, you can get more out of him than David Montgomery in a 2024 second. And if you're selling Dameon Pierce, why are you buying David Montgomery? I'm not sure.
I'd have to imagine that second is very enticing to this team manager for sure.
It has.
I agree with you. There's nothing about the difference of Montgomery to Pierce that would allow you to be like, this is my target. I agree with you, man. This is why I'm going to target Dameon. I'm going to use Dameon Pierce to get David Montgomery. Feels like a lesser version, a washed down version. Even last year, David Montgomery played pretty much every game. He had 206 carries. Last year, in only 13 games, Dameon Pierce had 220. So you brought up that 0.2 points per carry does make a difference here. But what I'm assuming is they're getting lost in the sauce when it comes to that second, and that second was enticing enough to pull the trigger. But Jason, let me ask you this. Let's say you have Dameon Pierce and someone comes to you and says, I'll give you Montgomery in a 24 second. Are you hitting the accept button?
Probably not, because, I mean, as you guys just said, Dameon Pierce is just younger and better David Montgomery. So I'm not really worried about that. I literally think they're the same height and weight and have a very similar shape of the way their profile goes. Like up and down. So it's the same profile,
accurate.
Same dude. Sorry?
That's accurate. No, they're
It's accurate.
2 pounds apart. They're the exact same.
Yeah.
So like I'm gonna ride with Dameon Pierce there. We'll definitely be talking about this, guys. Tune in to the overtime segment. We're going to be talking about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young whenever that gets released. And I am actually a big believer in the Houston Texans, maybe not like in 2023, but just going forward. And Dameon Pierce could end up being a big part of that. I know Devin Singletary is going to take like something away, and he has been a good football player, but I think Dameon Pierce has a role in this offense. Definitely going to get more carries than David Montgomery. Maybe not as many touchdowns, but even then, it's probably going to be close enough to where Pierce is definitely just the better running back to own. And the difference between a fourth and a second is huge, but that second could be essentially the end of the second, making it a third round pick, and maybe that fourth ends up being the first of the fourth round. So it's a third for a third almost too in some way. So I don't know. I'm not going to ramble anymore. Give me the Dameon Pierce side.
And I'm not a big Dameon Pierce believer, but I don't think this is enough to trade away a guy who could potentially be a bell cow back in an offense that we are hoping does take a step forward all around. Having a number 2 overall pick, CJ Stroud coming to town should help, everything in that offense. I wonder this though. Do you think that the person acquiring David Montgomery saw the 260 plus carries Jamal Williams got in this Detroit offense last year and goes, David Montgomery's going to get a ton of touches? Or are we all in agreement here that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to keep enough touches to himself where Montgomery doesn't eclipse that 260 mark?
It's crazy because Jamal Williams said that one line on Hard Knocks that sounded really cool.
It was great.
And then because of that, everybody decided, hey, we don't care that touchdowns and red zone efficiency is incredibly unreliable season over season because this guy was cool on a TV show in the summer. David Montgomery is going to come in and do the same thing. So I'm just going to write in 10 touchdowns for David Montgomery. What are we doing?
I mean, it was a great line. If you're going to piss like a puppy, stay on the porch
it was a great
Hall of Fame level. It was a great level. But yeah, when you look at Jamal Williams, what do you have? 9 touchdowns from the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
I think 12 to 14 of his 17 touchdowns came within the 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it was egregious.
It was egregious, but I think we're all kind of we're all on the same page here. We want the Dameon Pierce side, and the round 2 doesn't sway it enough in terms of downgrading from Pierce to Montgomery. So let's get on to trade number 4, another 10-team leaguer. Hey, these 10-teamers are out in full flux here tonight. PPR, Superflex, tight end premium. Start 10, so very shallow rosters here, or should I say starting rosters. Jerick McKinnon and the 207, which became Roschon Johnson, for Gabe Davis in a 24 5th. Jason, you have first dibs on this trade. Which side are you taking?
I'm taking the Roschon Jerick McKinnon side, definitely still. I was hoping, I think Roschon's obviously still a great pick there, but I was kind of hoping, just for argument's sake, that was maybe Jaden Reed or Marvin Mims. I think that would have made a more exciting segment, but it wasn't. It's Jerick McKinnon and Roschon Johnson. I'm definitely taking probably both of those assets over Gabe Davis. Maybe. And then I don't know why we even have to talk about a 5th round pick. This isn't an IDP league. That's a taxi squad player for the next 2 years. So yeah, give me McKinnon and Roschon.
Would you say that you would take? Would you take? You said you would take McKinnon over Gabe Davis, just straight up.
I might. If I need running back help more than wide receiver help, I think I would.
Damn, I thought I was going to be forward thinking by saying this in my part of the segment, and then I was like, did Jason disagree with me on this take? The winner of the trade was just the one who sent away Gabe Davis. The rest of it doesn't matter. But like, dead serious. anybody you can take at the 207 this year, I'm taking over Gabe Davis straight up. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how poorly your draft goes. I'm taking Jaden Reed over Gabe Davis. I'm taking Marvin Mims over Gabe Davis. Give me somebody with a solid prospect profile with decent draft capital who has yet to bust in the NFL. Gabe Davis has done it season over season over season, and it's the experiment is over.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys. I'm not a big Gabe Davis believer. And even if this was a best ball format, well, then you're getting all the Jerick McKinnon spike weeks too. That kind of nullifies itself. I don't like the type of player that Gabe Davis is. I mean, let's just say he goes 3 weeks in a row giving you less than 10 points. You're going to be inclined to bench him. And then all of a sudden in a difficult matchup, he catches a 98-yarder, and that's that. I don't like these type of players. And you're telling me I can get a running back version of that? I'll take it. We all know when the bullets are flying and you are getting the chaos of a fantasy season, you need these running backs. So give me the volatile running back over the receiver that has a similar kind of, pop rate in terms of fantasy. And then to get Roschon Johnson on top of that. Roschon Johnson might be the best player in this deal if we're reviewing this, a year from now. So to get McKinnon and Roschon for Gabe Davis, this is a trade you have to make. And I think it's a trade that in some home leagues, it might have appeal to some people. I don't know if people are all that excited about McKinnon in home leagues.
They're not. And people in home leagues are excited about Gabe Davis. He's still the wide receiver 2 on the Bills, sort of. So
exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head. There's still some appeal to Gabe Davis, but I was actually lucky enough to write about Roschon Johnson in the world famous draft kit. We all contributed a ton to this. We're all very proud that it's out. We're very, very excited for it. Matt, what was one of your favorite players to either talk about or write about?
That's a very interesting question because he's actually a part of the next trade that we're going to talk about. But apologies to Jason who was sick. So I did Dak Prescott for him. But as I was preparing it, I thought I was going to be very lukewarm on Dak in 2023. And as I started forming the take, I started realizing I'm actually not as in on Dak Prescott as consensus is, because you have guys like Kirk Cousins and Tua and Daniel Jones who not only outperform Dak in terms of fantasy points per game, but have offensive situations where they could tick up their passing production. And Dak Prescott is now likely in a situation where they're going to reel back their passing production. And when you look at all the wrong things are happening to Dak for the Cowboys passing game this offseason, and we got a lot of positives for Minnesota with getting Jordan Addison and losing Dalvin Cook, insinuating that they're going to be relying more on the pass more than ever this year. And then Daniel Jones getting a second year under the new offensive coordinator, that new head coach, Brian Dable, and now having Darren Waller at his disposal. So 3 people that outperform Dak and are all going behind Dak in drafts despite having better situations going into 2023. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next trade that we are going to break down, because it will be a doozy, because it involves a couple of the guys Matt just talked about. But before we do that, let's hear a little bit about that draft kit.
Hey, it's the Podfather. I have great news. The 2023 draft kit is live. It is world famous. Why? Because it is the best resource for winning fantasy football championships that exists. There are rankings and cheat sheets for every format you can imagine. We have projections both at the team level and the player level. And wherever you are, you can click on a player, open them up, and see in-depth written analysis about what to expect in fantasy football from that player this year. And then you can click on the team, and you can get even more in-depth analysis, all the drivers of fantasy production, both in a positive and negative direction for that team, including a signature trend. And the graphics are incredible. So these team insights, they give you the team level projections, the vacated targets, the vacated areas, and that one dynamic for each team that you need to know when making decisions on draft day. And we added a bunch of features. Individual cheat sheets for Theo and Billy and Dario. So you can take your favorite analyst and download their personal draft cheat sheet. And then in the commissioners section, also brand new this year, Memphis Young lays out everything you need to know to manage a league, do's, don'ts, tips, and what the more innovative fantasy commissioners are doing this year. That's presented by Trophy Smack. The whole package is presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship, the FFPC, Ray Garvin, Derek Brown, the best minds in the industry contributing analysis. It's certainly not the most inexpensive draft kit on the market, but it is the best. PlayerProfiler.com/draft kit. PlayerProfiler.com/draft kit. Go get it.
Get the world famous draft kit if you get the all-in package and use the promo code. I'm going to mute their mics, Matty. Get it done.
Jason.
I still don't have a promo code. Seth. Use Seth.
Well, use Matty. Me and Matt have the same note. An extra letter on it. Use promo code Matty.
All right.
So the
I'll
fifth
give it
trade, boys, that we are going to break down involves two of the players that Matt alluded to before the commercial break, Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott. 12-team half-point PPR, Superflex, start 11. Daniel Jones, Najee Harris in a 24 first for Dak Prescott, Ken Walker III in a 2024 third-round pick. I have a strong inkling I know where Matt's going to side on this. So why don't we start with you, Jason? Which side of this trade do you like better?
Probably the same side that Matt likes, and I mean, he just gave an eloquent speech about the difference between Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott. How Daniel Jones already outperformed Dak Prescott, is somehow cheaper. So I'll leave that to him. I'll let you have the quarterback talk. I'll talk about Najee Harris and Kenneth Walker, which we kind of already talked about Kenneth Walker earlier, and we're going to talk about Najee Harris later in the show. So I'll keep it short. If I own Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris is the exact type of running back that I want to be trading for if I'm worried about Zach Charbonnet. Me personally, not too worried about Zach Charbonnet. But if you are, you can go get Najee Harris, a first-round pick that is projected to have basically a bell cow role that you want for Kenneth Walker, the exact thing that Najee Harris actually will have and will succeed with in an offense that's taking a step forward. Plus, to get a first-round pick thrown in, I'm definitely on the Daniel Jones, Najee Harris first-round pick side. Not too crazy close either, to be honest.
Matt, anything else you'd like to add? I know you kind of dove into the two players, but anything you want to add about this trade specifically and how you see it playing out?
Sorry, muted. Already laid out my argument for Daniel Jones over Dak Prescott, but Jason kind of hit on the key part of this trade, and it's because it's that Najee Harris is a very similar short-term asset to Kenneth Walker. We're looking at two running backs who are going to see a bulk of the opportunity share, and depending on how this Zach Charbonnet situation plays out, and with Jaylen Warren with the hype that he's getting, they have a backup who could contend for touches, but are both most likely going to be the supreme leader of touches in the backfield. So you're getting a better quarterback, a similar short-term asset at running back, and a 2024 first. So in future capital, I truly don't see any part of the bottom side that's appealing no matter what your team structure is.
This is a great bamboozling, in my opinion, because I don't think that the downgrade, if there is one at quarterback, and you guys saying it's an upgrade, and I would have to, I don't know if I agree in 2023. I still think Dak Prescott's ceiling's awfully high, but let's talk about Daniel Jones, though. The good rushing floor, very efficient last year. First in true completion percentage, third in red zone completion percentage. And I know that's not necessarily an indicator of future success per se, but we all know that when it comes to the game of football, when you shrink the field, it's tougher for these quarterbacks to make the right passes and make the right reads. So the fact that Daniel Jones, when this field got a lot shorter, was able to make the right plays and complete the right passes does speak to his potential upside. Second year in Dayball's system, like you said, Matt, and they only threw the ball. The Giants were 25th last year in pass plays per game. So there's still significant levels that this offense can go to in terms of volume that truly accelerates Daniel Jones, who is already a top 10 producer on a points per game basis. And then you go from Ken Walker to Najee. Again, I think we're all on the same page there where, I think in a vacuum, we'd rather have Ken Walker, but Najee Harris, if you tell me he's the running back 12 next year and Ken Walker's running back 10, that's fine with me. I mean, we're not talking about a big difference. We're talking about a quarterback that has a higher ceiling or at least a similar ceiling, and then getting a 24 first.
Yeah.
That first is such a nice kicker on the end of this trade. Such a big trade. Because now let's just say here, Daniel Jones is firing like we're all saying he might. Najee Harris, we all love his schedule. We like this offense. Let's say he's balling out. Now you have a new fun coupon to go spend. And what could that become? Maybe you go back to this owner and say, listen, something to work out here. We're talking about a 24 first. These 24 firsts will have a ton of value. Chase was on, a month and a half ago with Jason, and they were talking about the importance of 24 firsts. And it gets lost kind of in the sauce at this point of the year. But, getting one now is nice to be able to spend throughout the year. So I think we're all on the same page where if you remember the NFC East, give us the Daniel Jones side of this NFC East trade for sure.
Mhm.
Trade number 6. I'm excited to see how this breaks down in your minds, guys. This is Team A receiving Tyler Lockett, Alexander Mattison, and to get those two players, they're trading away Sam Darnold, who you might be saying yourself right now, why are these boys about to talk to about Sam Darnold? Well, get ready because we have 2 trades coming up that involve Mr. Darnold. And there's also Elijah Moore and a Dwayne McBride player in this trade. So a 5-team deal and a 12-team PPR Superflex 2.0 tight end premium, 1.5 running back premium, star 11. These extra factors, they'll get your head spinning. Matt, how do you see this trade breaking down?
Yeah, so to start, to those who are, complaining about us talking about Sam Darnold, it's just the unfortunate fact that we're in a position where we have to. Because as much as it pains me to admit it, if Brock Purdy is not ready for week 1, it's going to be Sam Darnold starting games. And we're getting more and more. It's getting more and more likely that if Brock Purdy doesn't succeed and gets pulled at some point in the season, the guy who will come in and replace him is Sam Darnold. So he's got to be talked about in the same conversation as every other backup in an ambiguous situation, which if you read the Dynasty Dominator Reloaded book, which I suggest you go out and buy and read, it's a quick one, but very effective. That's the type of quarterback that you're supposed to be targeting in Superflex leagues because one play happens and then all of a sudden he doubles in value right away. So that being said, I'm taking the top half here because
I love the mystery. It's enticing.
At the same time, you can still get a lot of quarterbacks who would have similar value if they were to be plugged into a starting situation like Darnold and get better assets. So if you're a struggling team, right, you don't need to sell your soul to get a Sam Darnold. That doesn't help you at all. You want to be losing games. You don't want Sam Darnold. And if you're winning now, you want the assets that are going to help you win now, which are Alexander Mattison and Tyler Lockett. So it no matter how you kind of shake it, it just makes more sense to have Tyler Lockett and Alexander Mattison. I know Lockett's getting up there in age, but he hasn't really shown signs of hitting that cliff yet. So we likely have 2 to 3 more years of usable production should he stay healthy. And so Elijah Moore, big question mark. Dwayne McBride, big question mark. So you're getting some. This is like a value package. Like you pack up a bunch of, you buy 3, get 1 free, and then you exchange that for something bigger. You exchange like 3 like the little small bears at the carnival for one of the big ones. That's what this is.
This is a cashing in of bears. I love it, Jason. Which side of this trade do you want?
Yeah, I mean, before we get into it, I'm just going to take the Tyler Lockett, Alexander Mattison side. Not a huge Mattison guy at all. And in fact, using Mattison to get Dwayne McBride plus, I think is a fantastic, genius move. I do believe that Dwayne McBride will break out in this offense at some point. I think it speaks volumes that Minnesota did decide to draft him, even if it was just in the 7th round. This is a knucklehead factor that played into it. The dude just had some character concerns. Teams didn't quite believe in him, but he is a baller, led all college players in yards last season, had over 20 rush touchdowns. That's the type of profile in college production that is better than Alexander Mattison, to be honest. That's a plug and play type situation. And they'll probably go with the younger guy on a cheaper rookie contract at some point. I'm not a big believer in Elijah Moore at all.
Really?
I'm just not. I think I might have still been on the Elijah Moore train if he stayed in New York. I don't like to buy into wide receiver switching teams, especially early in their career. it's such a hard situation to come out of. We talked about them drafting Cedric Tillman. We talked about me believing in Donovan Peoples-Jones. To another degree, I highly believe in David Njoku as well, that I just don't know if there's going to be enough to go around. And this guy, he's going to be efficient when he gets the ball, but I don't think he's ever even going to eclipse wide receiver 2 on this offense, probably stuck down at 3 forever. And that's fine, right? I mean, there's a place for that, but I don't think he really has the ceiling that people hope he does and wish he did, because I believe he was wide receiver 2 from week 8 on in his rookie year, had a fantastic stretch, and then, just didn't really tap into that again. I do believe Brock Purdy will be ready week 1, and I do believe he'll continue to play as well as he did and lead this 49ers offense the way he did. So I'm not too into getting Sam Darnold at this point, because when Brock Purdy is announced as the week 1 starter, Sam Darnold is going to be dropped in a plethora of leagues. So we talk about this show all the time. This is trading $420 or $100 bill for $420s, right? Not even getting the whole $100, hoping that Sam Darnold eventually makes that value, makes it equal. But right now, as it stands, it's just not an equal trade at all. It's going to take a lot for it to become equal. So just give me the guys that are actually playing football next year.
Well, let me just say this one thing. Round of applause, because your boy's the one that acquired Tyler Lockett and Alexander Mattison in this trade. So, yes. All right. I won't have any analysis, because obviously I'm happy that Matt and Jason agree with me that making this trade was the right process. All right. Let's go. Oh, yeah, baby. Like I said, we had not one but 2 trades involving Sam Darnold. Here's the second one. This is part of a 12-team PPR Superflex 1.75 tight end premium start 10. 25 third and a 24 third for Sam Darnold. So you were talking about this previous, you mentioned this in the previous trade, Matt. Getting these quarterbacks. Is this the right price to get a quarterback like Sam Darnold?
No.
Give me the thirds.
yeah.
Give me the thirds.
Give me those thirds. You know what those thirds are? Those are 2 2023 starting quarterbacks. Well, this year you could get 2 2023 starting quarterbacks at some point with 3rd round picks in Stetson Bennett and Clayton Tune. Same story is going to happen in 2024 and 2025. You're going to be able to get some backup rookie quarterback that has to play a few games. The same exact situation that Sam Darnold is in now, but younger and potentially better as well. So give me those thirds. Those are some fun dart throws.
You can flip the 2024 third for Baker Mayfield and get the same result with more guaranteed starts.
Yeah,
for real. You really can.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think that overall, this is the type of trade I am trying to make if I'm in a bad situation. We all have had certain Superflex teams where we needed to acquire quarterbacks and we were taking dart throws early. So if you're going to take dart throws on Darnold, thirds, I guess, are the dart throws I'm throwing. But, Matt, you say 24, just the 24 third for Baker? Give me that, because at least he's starting day 1, and at least if he has a couple of good games, maybe you can tear up from there. But so you're both saying that even here in a Superflex format, starting 10 players, you would rather have 2 third-round picks than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, because I could go get Stetson Bennett with one of those thirds, and I would rather have Stetson Bennett than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, fair.
I don't want to be lumped into that one. I don't want to
do it. Come on, join me. Trust me.
No, I'm not scoffing
at
at it for sure. If I wrote in the show sheet, if I need to make this trade, then I probably need to make this trade. So if that's the case, and I have been in a situation where I felt like I just gotta throw some crap at the fan and see if it hits, then this is sometimes the move you just got to do to course correct. I mean, hey, what if you're a team, 1.75 tight end premium? What if you're rocking Brock Purdy, George Kittle? And you're a contending team. You say, hey, I'll throw a third next year and a third the year after that, and I'll try and maybe plug up a QB hole if Purdy gets hurt. So there's some nuance to it, but just looking at the trade, obviously I'm taking the 2/3.
That's a great point to bring up because if you're buying insurance, this is a fair price for insurance.
Definitely.
But if you're not protecting a valuable stack like Purdy, Kittle, Purdy, Ayuk, Purdy, Samuel, we're all in accord. We're all in agreement. Ayuk.
Oh,
What would I say?
I heard Ayuk.
Ayuk, maybe. I'm horrible. I'll throw out Jay. You can attest this. I will just say names, and you're like, "What?" I'm like, "What? What did I say?"
Speaking of, while we're on this topic, did you guys see Etienne added an apostrophe to his name, just like wistfully?
Devon? No, what is it? Devoyne?
It's
His
Devon
first
Etienne.
name or last name?
He added an apostrophe in between the E and the V. It's DE apostrophe capital V now. Check Sleeper. Check everywhere. It's not that way on the Texas A&M site. I've been talking about Devon Etienne all offseason. It has never been that way, but I just drafted him in a startup and DE apostrophe VON on Sleeper and everywhere now, even on the Miami Dolphins page.
This is how you stay in the headlines. I respect it.
Devon Etienne and Brandon Ayuk. What did I say? Ayuk? Horrible. All right, let's move on to the next trade before you guys roast me even more. 12-team, half-point PPR, Superflex, tight end premium start 12. Boys, this is a grade A certified banger. 6-player trade or 6-asset trade. Bijan Robinson, T. Higgins, Michael Mayer, and a 24-second for Ken Walker, Jamar Chase. Matt, what side of this trade do you want?
Whew. I stared at this for so long. The trade calculator didn't help. And I simply couldn't decide what I wanted to do. And I think this all comes down to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And it's how you view those two assets. If you're a part of the camp that T. Higgins is overvalued at wide receiver 11, which I don't think he is, then you're probably taking Walker and Chase because you'd rather have an asset and running back that's not Bijan Robinson, but a top 10 back, and then a dynasty cornerstone wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 for the next 10 years in Jamar Chase. My only issue with that is that Jamar Chase has yet to break away from T. Higgins that much. And there's a lot of assumptions that he will. And there's a lot of assumptions that T. Higgins will bounce. So we're looking tight end premium. I'm not the biggest Michael Mayer believer, which is another part of this that makes it incredibly tough for me to buy. But I think I'm just going to take the collection of assets. I'm going to take Bijan Robinson, who can be the RB1 for the next 3 to 5 seasons. I'm going to take T. Higgins, who's going to be probably a top 12 receiver, if not, in the 15 to 12 range, like competing for that wide receiver 1 spot. And then Michael Mayer, who's going to be the number 2 target in this offense, the number 3. There's a lot of targets open for Michael Mayer. And then you get a pick in the 2024 second rounder with, in Superflex tight end premium. That second round pick could be pretty valuable still, especially if it's in the top half. So I completely flipped my take here from what but I'm going to take the top half.
Okay. I mean, those are significant assets. If you're going to come correct for Ken Walker, Jamar Chase, this is the type of offer you're going to have to pony up. Jason, if you roster Jamar Chase and you roster Ken Walker III and you see this 4-piece package, are you hitting the accept button?
It's like making me think so hard. As you know, last week I literally said I am not trading Jamar Chase unless I get Justin Jefferson plus. And I won't trade Justin Jefferson unless I get Jamar Chase plus.
But this is a factor of other assets that kind
This is Jamar Chase for Bijan Robinson and Jamar Chase's backup. And that's all I'm going to call T. I do want to go to Matt's point about just Jamar Chase hasn't separated himself from T. Higgins enough. That is kind of true, but you can look at target total and see that last year T. Higgins only had 1 more target than he did in 2021, 111 targets versus 110. And last year, Jamar Chase did miss 5 games with his hip injury. So the fact that he didn't get significantly more targets despite being on the field without Jamar Chase for 5 extra games, I think does show that Jamar Chase is getting more volume in this offense and will probably continue to grow. However, the wide receiver 2 on the Cincinnati Bengals is an incredibly valuable role, especially with someone as talented as T. Higgins. So I think you've probably, if you are a sane-minded dynasty manager who's not incredibly attached to Jamar Chase, you probably have to take the top side. But I think if I roster Jamar Chase and Kenneth Walker, I don't think I'm pressing the accept button. I don't think I am.
See, I didn't want to. I would never speak for you, Jason. But we've been doing the show a long time together. We talk a lot about dynasty fantasy football together. When I saw this trade, I said to myself, Jason would not say yes to this. He wouldn't take it. And I know how much you love Bijan. I do.
Yeah.
But I just know how much you value Jamar Chase. I know how much he means to you, like in terms of your roster building here. But I think it's super, super close. This is any which way you dice up this offer, it gets tilted on one end. It makes you rethink
that's the
it.
problem.
That's the overall problem. Here's what broke the tie for me. You guys kind of touched upon a lot of the player breakdowns, and I kind of see it pretty similarly. So there's not a lot of pushback I'll give there. But for me, what broke the tie was this, and this is something you can't really say is going to happen one way or another. It's just something that I think is probably in the range of outcomes. It's an out in terms of the players you're acquiring. I think there is a chance that T. Higgins a year from now is on a new team, and he is that wide receiver 1 studdo. And he does solidify himself in terms of his talent, because we all believe that T. Higgins is very talented. He's had 2 of his 3 years in the NFL over 1,000 yards, and the 1 year he wasn't was 900 yards. He's been inside of the top 30 each of the last 2 years, and I think there's a ceiling to that. I also believe that if he were to go, like, let's just say hypothetically that this is Earth, 318, and we go to Earth, whatever the other Earth is in the Marvel MCU. What if T. Higgins was the wide receiver that went to the Chicago Bears? What if T. Higgins was the wide receiver on the market that was traded for a round 1 pick and became that alpha? And that, to me, that possibility of T. Higgins leaving the Bengals and being a bona fide wide receiver 1 is enough for me to sway it in the direction of the Bijan and the assets trade, because I think all of the assets together, because Matt, you said you're not a believer in Mayer. I do like Michael Mayer, so that only just drives what you said even higher. Bijan over Ken Walker, we all agree to that. And Michael Mayer second, and T. Higgins for Jamar Chase. Although I don't know if I would pull the trigger on that individually, but when you put it all together, I think we're on the same page here again, guys. We're taking the package over Jamar Chase, which is a revelation, right, Jason?
No, I think that is. Do you think that T. Higgins wide receiver 1 is better than T. Higgins wide receiver 2 on the Bengals?
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Opportunity is king.
I do.
He got a 24% target share in 2021.
Right.
So if he goes back to that, then
right.
Yeah.
And he was wide receiver 12 on a points per game basis that year.
Now I don't really know what the cause of this was, but I mean his red zone target share was cut in half, and then his target share went from 24% to 19% from 2021 to 2022. So I don't know if we're going to see the 2022 opportunity, then yeah, T. Higgins wide receiver 1 on another team is better. But if he's going to go back to where he was in 2021, which I expect him to finish closer to, then it's close. Yeah. But if it's similar opportunity shares, then yeah, give me the higher powered offense. But there's just no guarantee of what offense that is.
True.
For sure. But we've seen it now over the course of the last 3 to 5 years that these teams that do acquire wide receiver 1s, we've seen it now with older guys like Diggs and Hill. We've seen it with younger guys like AJ Brown. And I'm hoping we see it again with DJ Moore, that if this was to happen, and again, if you're telling me that the one end of the spectrum is he just signs long-term with Joe Burrow, and then the other end of the spectrum, he signs long-term to be player, QBX's wide receiver 1, I think both those outcomes are good enough for me that I'm going to stick to this package here. But it's crazy because there's a lot of talk that Jamar Chase will be the first ever 2,000-yard receiver in 2023. Well,
3,000. Make it 3.
Make it 3. Okay. So that's going to wrap up the trade breakdowns. But now we're going to get into the fan favorite segment that you all been waiting for.
It's time to buy and sell.
And today we're talking about 3 players in the buy or sell segment: JSN, Najee Harris, and Cooper Kupp. Let's get through these boys. Matt, what are you saying here? Well, let's start with, actually, you're the guest show. Who should we start with? What player do you want to talk about first?
Well, I actually don't want to. I don't want to talk about Cooper Kupp first because I already went into the show sheet after Jason wrote up his opinion on Cooper Kupp, and my notes in the show sheet are what he said. So I was already kind of planning on just kind of coattailing him there. So let's start.
All right, why don't we start with
Najee.
Cooper Kupp? Let's start with Cooper Kupp. Jason, you give your take on Cooper Kupp, and we'll knock it right off the show sheet. Go. Let's talk about Cooper Kupp. Is he a buy or sell?
It's a total cop-out answer, but it ultimately comes down to what kind of team you have. If you are contending, you've got to hold on to him or go out to try to acquire him. The risk is worth it. If you are not contending, you should be selling. Just to talk about the player a little bit, we're talking about a wide receiver who has now had back-to-back #1 overall points per game seasons. The Rams are going to be getting better. Stafford is reportedly healthy. They're not in their Super Bowl hangover. And even though he was injured last year and we're perhaps concerned that he's going to lose a step, what made him so good is not his athleticism. It's understanding defenses. It's his connection with Matthew Stafford. And it's just plain and simple route running, which, you don't have to be necessarily extremely explosive for if you are running the correct route and you have the connection that you do with Matthew Stafford. Plus, I believe that Cam Akers is bouncing back. That'll just open up the offense. Right now, he's wide receiver 16. Some players in that range that I would be sending for him if I'm winning now and I want to acquire Cooper Kupp, I would be sending DJ Moore. I would be sending Devontae Adams. I would be sending Deebo Samuel, Chris Godwin, Jordan Addison, Treylon Burks, Michael Pittman. I think that that's some good players in that range. And then if I am sending away Cooper Kupp because I'm rebuilding, I'm looking for basically any of the higher drafted second-year wide receivers like Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, George Pickens, Jamison Williams, plus, or some of the rookies this year plus as well, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson. I would like something thrown on top. You can maybe perhaps get a little risky and try for Deebo Samuel plus, and call it a hot take, but I think Jerry Jeudy plus could be an interesting sell as well, depending on what that plus is. But I think that should put you guys in the right ballpark.
Matt?
Yeah, I quite literally agree with all of Jason's points besides any notion of buying Jerry Jeudy. Or Quentin Johnson, in my opinion. We talked on the newly rebranded Dynasty Roundtable last night about how I'm buying Treylon Burks, I'm selling Quentin Johnston and Jerry Jeudy, but that's kind of beside the point here. I agree with pretty much everything Jason said there on Cooper Kupp. I think an interesting play if you're a Devonta Smith manager is to fork over Devonta Smith for Cooper Kupp plus, win now and later. I feel like Devonta Smith has crept up the rankings to a point where his value can't get much higher without being a #1 target. Or without his team completely flipping the script and going pass heavy, which I don't know if we expect is going to happen anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a sneaky sell if you want to sell high on an asset. But yeah, if you're contending, buy, not contending, sell.
It is what it is. I'm agreeing with this. That's why we went with Cooper Kupp first, because we all just kind of agree with Jason. Now, let's move on to Najee Harris, the guy you want to kick it off with, Matt. Are you buying or selling Najee Harris?
I'm buying. He's getting a value deflation because of Lisfranc last season that he played through. And he played through Lisfranc, got an absurd opportunity share, and still finished as, I don't have it up in front of me, but it was
running back 19
RB19. RB19 with still 40 plus receptions on a Lisfranc. He had 74 receptions his rookie season. I understand that it was Ben Roethlisberger and he couldn't throw more than 2 yards down the field, and that's why Deontay Johnson had his only good season in his career. But Najee Harris is en route for an 80% opportunity share, 75% opportunity share. Listen, if you're buying Jaylen Warren on efficiency on a small sample size, I have bad news for you. That is a game that most people lose. It's just a bet that most often doesn't pan out. I'm intrigued by Jaylen Warren personally, but we go with an asset who's been a proven workhorse and couldn't be spelled off the field even with a broken foot. A running back with a broken foot. Warren wasn't pushing him off the field that often. So I'm completely buying. His value's way too low right now. I've already acquired in certain dynasty leagues that I'm trying to position and start to compete in. So, yeah, I couldn't be more in on Najee at his current value.
I'm buying Najee as well. I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a player who finished as, running back 19 on a points per game basis. If you sell, I think you're going to get running back 15 to 18 prices. I'm much rather trying to buy at that price point than sell at that price point. He's running back 13 in a keep trade cut. We have him a little bit higher in our rankings because we're smarter here at Player Profiler. But I'm buying too. Love the schedule. Not a believer in Jalen. Not necessarily not a believer of Jalen Warren, but he's not like overly athletic. He's actually not an athletic guy. And Mike Tomlin has been a one running back coach almost his entire career. That's kind of how he plays it. So if you're telling me that the market value across most, fantasy ecosystems is running back 15, 18 for Najee Harris, let me buy at that price and let me cash in later on however I want. So I'm buying as well. Jason, are you buying or selling Najee Harris?
Yeah, definitely buying Najee Harris. I actually don't believe in Jalen Warren at all. I think it's entirely likely that he only saw the field so much because of Najee Harris's Lisfranc injury that, again, was totally played through all 17 games. That's just entirely unheard of. And while doing that, only had 2 games under 9.9 points. I had to move it from 10 to 9.9 because he did have a 9.9 game, but still,
you scallywag.
A man like me would just lie. Go look it up.
Round up, baby.
No lying here. 2 games under 9.9, and 2 20-plus point games. Fifth in carries, 6th in red zone touches, 10th in opportunity share. Again, playing through a broken foot. It's gonna get better. The Steelers' offense is gonna get better. I honestly can't think of a bigger buy at this range right now than Najee Harris.
Okay, so now let me ask you this now, Jason. The third guy that we're showing here is Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the first wide receiver off the board in the 2023 rookie class. Are you buying or selling JSN?
I'm buying. It's hard to buy right now, but I think that it is a pill that you have to swallow with a player as talented as he is. And his situation, let's face it, can only get better. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both have been really healthy throughout their career, so I'm not really going to be like, oh, they could get injured, he could come out there. But still, Lockett's going to be 31 next year. So even if he does finish this season, he's out within the next 2, more than likely. Plus, historically, the Seahawks maybe haven't run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, but that could totally change. They seem to believe in Geno Smith now, and when you spend that kind of capital on a wide receiver, you're not just going to not use him. So I think he's going to get volume this year. I think he'll be more effective even in redraft leagues than people are expecting him to be. And again, I think his value can only go up from here. So even with the price tag that he is carrying, I'm still going to buy. I'm going to bite the bullet.
Matt, are you buying or selling JSN?
Yeah, I think he's priced pretty efficiently for a situation. Like Jason said, with year, there's some uncertainty year 1. And maybe he's slightly overpriced considering that. But I mean, let's face it, Dynasty is Dynasty for a reason. And he's going to be a little bit overpriced for year 1 because of what his long-term situation looks like. And I think we're getting a discount because of the uncertainty, which, and like Jason said, it's all because, Lockett's still there. And then they run through, they don't often run 3 receiver sets. And that kind of stuff is generally more personnel driven than it is coaching decision driven. 100%. So if you have the personnel to run 3 receiver sets, you're going to be running 3 receiver sets because you have 3 incredibly talented receivers who are going to spread the field out in such a way that Geno's going to have somebody open to throw to every time he drops back to pass. So when you look at JSN's talent profile, there's no question about it. He's the undisputed wide receiver 1. So much hype going into this season. He's got the draft capital. I'm very willing to bet on that at his current price. Yep. And so that being said, I think it's tougher in actuality than it is on paper to buy him at his current price after rookie drafts are over, once the emotional ties have been established. So if you can actually buy at that price, then I'm in. But I think dynasty managers who go to make offers for JSN are going to be surprised when they're met with some pretty inflated counter offers.
That's a fantastic point.
It is, but I will also say, I'll add to that. I think that even if you get a counter that seems to be a little bit pricey for the arena you're looking to step into, I'm still looking to buy even at an inflated price point, and here's why. Week 1, the Rams. Week 2 at Detroit. Week 3, Carolina. Week 4 at the Giants. Week 6 at the Bengals. I think there's a lot of shootout and good game script potential for the Seahawks, and I think there will be a price bump. I think that JSN's that type of talented receiver that within these first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, he's going to have a monster game. And once he has one, that price goes up no matter what. So I'm even okay buying now because I do believe that when we're talking by, Thanksgiving, not even Thanksgiving before that, Halloween, a little bit after Halloween, we're going to be looking at JSN a different way because I think he's going to have one massive spike week. And in Dynasty, you have to capitalize on those because at that point, I'd rather have him on my roster to decide, should I sell now high or should I ride the wave rather than wait until that spike and then have to buy an even more inflated price point. But Matt, you're 100% right. Someone drafted JSN, they either reached for him or got him at a value, and they're going to have a little bit of love for him. So there will be whatever you're expecting to pay. If you're not expecting to go 10% over, don't even send the initial offer because you're not going to get JSN right now.
That's a good call. The people need to remember and learn from Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Look where they're at in dynasty rankings. They're both top 8 options. Yeah. So if JSN has a similar type of rookie season, Garrett Wilson didn't truly break out. His box score numbers weren't jaw-dropping. Right. So JSN can realistically put up a similar season, and if that's happening, man, he's a top 10 asset. And if he's a top 10 asset, you're going to be sorry that you didn't buy when you had the chance.
Yeah, try trading for, like you said, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave right now. That is tough comings. But that is the wrap on Trade Gods this week. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Take the time to plug everything you're on, everything you're working on, all that good stuff.
This was so much fun. Thank you for having me. So we've already run a couple ads and talked about it. The draft kit's out. That's been what I've put a lot of work into, so have a lot of people. So, go get it, go read through it, reach out to your favorite analysts with your favorite takes and let them know, how you feel about them. I know a lot of people put in a lot of work. Go give our guy, Theo Greminger, a shout out for all the work he did, the last minute, just seeing all the even just the communications that I was a part of in the final days, I know that got hectic. So big shout out to him. And thanks to everybody at Player Profiler for letting me contribute. Wednesdays, Seth Dewald and I co-host the Dynasty Roundtable. It's the fantasy football's premier Dynasty Roundtable discussion podcast. What else can I say about it? Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central. Tune in. We got some special guests coming in the next couple of weeks. So some big things coming on that podcast. And then Jason kind of teased it. We're doing the Win Your League with Player Profiler series, a collab with 6 Player Profiler analysts, 3 of which you are seeing on your screen right now. So you can get 3 takes plus 3 others from Theo, Seth, and Jack Kavanaugh. And so we have done breakout running backs, breakout receivers, breakout tight ends is coming soon. Should be coming out tomorrow if I'm keeping track of everything correctly. And then we're going to be doing breakout quarterbacks next. And we're not stopping there. We're going to continue throughout the entirety of the 2023 season, bringing you takes that are going to win your league. So yeah, that's what I got to plug. Thanks for having me on. This was incredibly fun.
Hey, we'll definitely have you on again, Jason. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yep. Find me on Twitter at JFootballWine. And then you can follow all of the social medias that I'm running right now, the Instagram, the Facebook, and now the TikTok, Player Profiler TikTok, Roto Underworld Instagram, Player Profiler Facebook are the usernames. And of course, Wake and Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m., talking about whatever news is going on or whatever else I feel like talking about that morning. And of course, the best Dynasty trade show in the entire world, Trade Gods, every Thursday night at 8 p.m. with my man, my friend, Matty Kiwoom. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Kiwoom. Like Jason said, Trade Gods each and every Thursday. The game plan comes out on Saturdays. You can check that out. This Saturday, we'll have Tyler Football on. We're talking best ball. It is best ball season. Yeah, anything I pump out is pretty much coming through playerprofiler.com, world famous draft kit. Very proud to be a part of that. It's the best draft kit on planet Earth. And if you just can't get enough of me, you could also go to my Patreon, patreon.com/theexecutives. So He's Jason Allwine. I'm Matty Kiwoom. We were joined by the great Matt Babich. We are the Trade Gods. See you next week. Peace.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.